Everyone, welcome back to Saph Reacts and the final part of Take Me Back to Eden. This is Euclid. I'm just going to go straight in. Enjoy.
Just run it back, give me 5 whole minutes. I am thick tower on the inside burning. I've got a ghost in the hallway grinning, and a heavy head that won't stop turning. If my fate is a bad collision, and if my mind is an open highway, give me the twilight two-way vision. Give me one last ride on a sunset sky.
I'm just going to pause very briefly. Yes, very much so. Very, very much so. The piano throughout all of their tracks on every album is just utterly heartbreakingly beautiful. Especially Atlantic on the This Place Will Become Your Tomb album.
Call me when you get the chance. I can feel the walls around me closing in. Just running forward, alive like wires, as I see the past on an empty ceiling. I play along with the life signs anyway, but oh to God, you don't know this feeling. Yet in reverse, you were all my symmetry. A parallel I would lay my life on. So if your wings won't find you heaven, I will bring it down like an ancient bygone. Call me when you have the time. I just need to leave this part of me behind. Do you remember me? When the rain gathers, and do you still believe that nothing else matters for me? It's still the
That every single freaking time. It just feels so hopeful. I love it.
autumn leaves.
I'm shaking. I'm actually shaking.
These ancient canopies that we used to lay beneath. No, but no, the night belongs to you. This power's broken through.
There's a reason it gets. I am a mess. Oh, I should not have worn eyeliner. Marzi, hello, darling. Welcome. Ah, the reason I'm shaking. The reason that hits me. It, oh god, I can't do anything else. It's a direct callback to the first song on the first album, Sundowning. It's it's The Night Does Not Belong to God, and it's just so perfect. It's so utterly perfect. I need a second. Bear with me one moment. It just, every single time, the second he sings "The Night Belongs to You," I am done. I am absolutely done. Like, yes, exactly. It is so, so hopeful and beautiful and just, uh, I'm not even going to apologize. It's just, I warned y'all I was gonna cry. I warned y'all I was gonna cry. Uh, I'm probably gonna carry on crying. Uh, it's such a beautiful, beautiful ending, and it's monsters exactly the same. If you listen to "The Night Does Not Belong to God," it is exactly the same, and that's what makes it so powerful. Um, we will talk about we will attempt to talk about this without breaking down. Um, we will attempt. So, before we get to also yes, what I'm actually going to do is get into the callbacks and everything once I've done this, because I think those are very, very important. Um, for anyone who doesn't know, Euclid was a Greek mathematician. He was considered the father of geometry and famously said there is no royal road to geometry. A royal road is a method of reaching something without trouble, and we'll keep this in mind for later. Um, so he begins by saying he needs a moment. I need a moment. I don't know about all of you. He feels heavy, like he's got a great weight on the inside, just keeping him down. And the imagery of the ghost grinning at him links us back to the apparition. Um, whether or not that ghost is smiling at him with kindness or malice remains to be seen. We don't know. I think that's very open to interpretation at this point. He speaks of his fate being a bad collision, an open highway, and this again ties me back to the aftermath of Granite once again. The bad collision on the highway having taken the person he loved from him. And he's longing for one more ride with them, that moment of riding away into the sunset so he can be with them and be happy, even though the relationship wasn't right for him and was keeping him trapped and held down. When he says, "Give me that Twilight two-way vision," to me it makes me think of that kind of hindsight being 2020 perfect vision now that he can see both sides of what happened. Also, I think it's probably important to note that Twilight is a liminal period, which that's been very prevalent throughout this album. I can't speak. I can't speak. Deep breath. We've got this. That idea of liminal spaces, liminality, the spaces between. It's been very prevalent throughout this whole album. Um, yeah, we caught that. We caught that. He asks for somebody to call him if they can, because he can feel the walls closing in around him. And this tells us that he's starting to feel trapped again. And this time he knows he needs help. He knows he was ignoring calls from people and Take Me Back to Eden that cared about him before, because he didn't trust them and he felt that they were fake. And this is most likely due to them trying to get him to realize he was stuck in that cycle of toxicity. But now he understands that they were just trying to help him, and he's reaching out now to say, I'm sorry. I'm here. Please help me. And he tells the other person, his apparition, that their lives run in parallel lines now. They're not going to cross paths again. That he still feels that they run in a sort of strange symmetry. To him, they will be forever entwined. They'll forever be tangled up together, even though they're no longer with him. And he wishes that their wings carry them to heaven, furthering the theory that they didn't survive the events of Granite. But if they can't reach that, he'll bring it down to them in one last feat as their sacred guardian. Which I think is very, very sad, actually. And again, he reaches out to others, asking that they call him, hoping that they remember him, because he'd abandoned them to spend his time under the autumn leaves with this person he'd given everything to. He asks his apparition if they still think nothing else matters, and in a moment of heartbreaking clarity, finally wishes them well and tells them the night belongs to them. That bough has broken through, that branch that he'd been tangled up in has broken, and he's free. He can become someone new, he can find himself. And he says that he can do that for himself. He can make that choice now, whether to remove the last tangles, the last vestige of that hold this person had on him, and finally healthily heal, or he can return to the start of the cycle and repeat the past until eventually it consumes him and he ends up stuck in that ride on a sunset skyway with them, both of them forever in that car from Granite. And I think that the outcome of this song, two very different interpretations, will be very, very personal to each listener, depending on where you are in your own journey. It represents healing and a willingness to change the situation that you're in, and a desire to remove those karmic ties. And the fact that the end of Euclid calls back to the opening track, The Night Does Not Belong to God, from their first full album, Sundowning, is just simply beautiful. And again, very open to interpretation. Personally, I see it as him saying that although in the song The Night Does Not Belong to God, he is asking for someone to take him willingly into the darkness so he can sink into his pain and depressive state. In Euclid, he is stating that this is the last time he's going to speak to his apparition. He's leaving them behind, and he knows now that they won't be his. He'll take the night one last time, and then he will start his own path of healing and renewal, where he can experience rebirth, a resurgence. He can rebuild himself and his life from that toxicity, learn who he is, learn how to be himself again after losing himself to someone else so completely that changed him for the worse. And now he can figure out how to show himself that same love that he gave them. Euclid is a goodbye. Not to the music, I hope, but to his past self. It's a song of separation, and it speaks of finally allowing yourself to feel and mourn the loss of what you thought you had, or even what might have been, while finding yourself anew. For me, and this is why the album's hit me as hard as it has, because I'm right there. And this is something that not a lot of people know. I'm right there in my own healing journey from a very toxic situation. But for me, I'm choosing to give that person the night and step free of those tangles. And I hope to God they don't know this feeling. It's a very, very hopeful song, and it's beautiful, and I love it. If you will recall what I said about Euclid earlier, about there being no royal road to geometry, I think this is a metaphor for healing. Sorry. I think this is a metaphor for healing. It's hard, and it's non-linear, and it's often very, very painful. and there's no clear or easy path through it. And sometimes you find yourself repeating old patterns, old programming, learned behaviors. And sometimes you fall back into certain cycles in order to learn from them, sometimes because it's easier to go back than it is to work on breaking the ties that bind you to someone or something. And sometimes because you truly believe that the cycle can somehow change solely because you love that person. And you want that love to be the catalyst that changes things for the better. You want to be enough for that person to want to change. And I think it's possibly why Euclid leads into the opening of sundowning, because it starts the cycle again. And ultimately, the realization that you can only change yourself and your reactions to the things around you hits. And in that moment of clarity, you can start to allow yourself to feel the things that you may have been holding down for fear of judgment or fear of losing the other person. And once that moment occurs, you can then begin to heal and ascend into whatever the next phase of your life is. Take Me Back to Eden it's a beautiful, heartbreaking masterpiece. It's a true musical journey through breaking the ties that bind you to a toxic relationship, through the uncertainty of separation, and out the other side of finding yourself, accepting yourself, and finally finding out how to love yourself. It is a wonderfully fitting end to the trilogy that began with Sundowning, continued with This Place Will Become Your Tomb, and is an album that really set Sleep Token apart from other bands with their complex, very emotive, haunting, genre-spanning, genre-defying music. It is leaving me feeling bereft, almost. Like I found something I didn't know I was looking for, and yet somehow simultaneously as though I've lost something very important somewhere within those incredible soundscapes and gorgeously crafted lyrics. For me, it feels, especially if you listen to it as we all have tonight, like a bit of a punch that kind of takes your breath away a bit. And then like an immediate burst of oxygen afterwards that kind of fills you with air, fills your lungs with air. And in that kind of sharp intake of breath, that sudden gasp that we've heard actually on a couple of those tracks tonight, there's hope that things are going to be okay, that you could see the other side and you'll find yourself. this this album just came at such the right time for me. It really, really did. And it's been a very it's been such an emotional journey, not just because of my love for music and for this band, but because it reflects a lot of my own personal journey and how fragile things have been for so long for me. And thankfully, with the support of some very, very wonderful people that did, if I can borrow a line from Euclid, remember me, I am seeing hope again and finding myself. And I think Euclid was just such a perfect ending to this album, and an incredible ending to the trilogy as well. And it ended here in coming full circle, but not closing that circle, in a wonderful metaphor showing that the cycle can and has been broken. Sleep Token, your music isn't just music. It's an experience. It's something to be savored like rich dark chocolate or the most decadent dessert. And it is, as I've heard so many others say, important. Not just in the sense of being like a breath of fresh air in a market that's a little saturated with music that for me personally feels a tad soulless, but because it has this incredible depth, so many cleverly crafted layers and meanings. It's important because it reignites the passion and theatricality of music, and that is something so absolutely beautiful and rare and very, very special. And I highly doubt that the band will ever see this, but if in some alternate universe or some alternate reality where they do, thank you for being so completely unique, for showing us your true authentic, raw, and unfiltered selves, for allowing that vulnerability to shine through and be strength, not weakness, and for letting us do the same with you. Worship. For everyone watching this via my YouTube series, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for chatting with me in the comments if you have been. I appreciate you all very, very much. And there is a really, really big part of me that wants to do this for the other albums than the EPs, just because this band is very important and very, very special. I will leave it here for this series. Thank you. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of yourselves, and I will see you all next time.